What's up, everybody? Coming to you from Keystone, Colorado. Uh, Here doing a little vacationing, but this episode is with Amelia Haynes. Amelia is a very loving, encouraging individual who's really been a good friend for a very long time, and I was excited to sit down with her and have a conversation. So, Amelia's been a lifelong teacher and lover of dance, ballet, and hip hop, and all of the usual things that go along with that. And we talk about that and how she grew up with that and how it's impacted her life. And it's a really great interview and very funny. Amelia's a very funny individual, and I always enjoy spending time with her. So enjoy.
You can go your own way. Drink heroic beer.
All right,
Here we are.
Amelia Haynes.
In the house. Well, you're in my house.
yeah,
but
I'm
you
at-
know
I'm at
how
your
it
house.
is. Yeah.
So,
Honored.
for those who don't know, Amelia is a one-of-a-kind individual. To y'all, she is Nathan's girlfriend, our first guest,
Yeah,
the
whatever.
first week.
To some of y'all.
To those of you who don't know, you're going to learn today.
You gonna learn today.
So, Amelia is a lot of things, but we'll get into that.
Right.
So Amelia and I have basically grown up together.
Good comments.
Been in school in the same school together forever,
Right.
until elementary school through high school.
Well, really, college, if you will.
Oh yeah, you
Don't
went to
forget
tech for a little while.
HBTD, man. I can't deny them rusting bones. Okay.
All right,
All right.
go dogs. How long were you in school for?
That's a great question, Dan Mabry. I'm glad you asked that. Let's see. Did tech
Yeah.
about 2 years. Technically, I did tech for about 4 years, but that I was, junior and senior in high school. That didn't count.
Oh,
But then
yeah.
I really started to go to school there.
Mhm.
And started really doing RIP El Toro. I don't know
Yeah.
if you remember
Yeah,
those
oh, yeah.
nights there. When Rabs was Rabs.
Mhm.
I was doing Reston. Went for business for 2 years. I was miserable. And then I transferred to ULM and did digital media for another 2 years. Your girl's got 132 hours underneath her belt. To some of you, that's a degree.
Yeah.
But for Amelia, I've got just a bunch of hours and a bunch of random piled up ideas of a degree.
Fair enough.
Right.
But I mean, you have a creative outlet. You have a
Right.
way to make some money,
Right.
doing what you love to do. So I mean, you are a dancer. Is that how you?
I know.
Some people like that. That could be a bad term.
I know. It's real weird. Whenever I introduce myself to people, when I explain, hey guys, I'm Amelia, I'm a dancer. Whenever I was like 15, it was like, oh, sweet. You do
and you
ballet.
can't say I teach dance because that's like
Right.
too plain and simple.
Right. Because, I do more than that. But whenever I was like 15, 16, 17, yeah, I'm a dancer. Oh, wonderful. You must be in a company. Now it's gotten to the point where, yeah, I'm a dancer. Oh, what kind? That's the first question.
Luckily for you, though, like you have the personality to be like you would either roll with it.
Right. Sometimes I keep people on their feet. I keep it going, and then I'm like, nah, dude. Like I actually like teach small children what
Yeah.
to do with their lives.
So let's back up a little bit.
All
So
right,
when did that passion start for you?
So I started dancing whenever I was 3. My mom enrolled me, as soon as I was old enough to do it. She put me in gymnastics and dance. Loved the gymnastics. I was able to, work on flexibility, start getting, flips and all that good stuff. But then every day, I always wanted to go to dance. I remember her telling me as a kid, like, even if I didn't have dance that day at the studio, I would put on my clothes, dance around the house, like full out, So I would say it started, I started at 3, but I really felt the passion. Passion is the word for it. I really felt that around I would say 10. It got to the point my parents weren't financially able to support my dance dreams and goals. And whenever I was 10, I got a scholarship from a dance convention to go to nationals in Las Vegas.
And at this point, it's all like private dance stuff.
Right. It's at the studio. I'm training full time. I'm competing. I'm doing recitals. I was never the best. I was never the highlighted dancer of the group, but my passion and my charisma always got me through, that class. I always told myself, just keep working. I know you're going to get there one day. And mentally as a child, to have that is an incredible aspect. I mean, that's why I do what I do. I really hope that I can share the passion that I have with other people. That is my goal, because as wild as I can be and as much as I've been through, no matter what, I've always had that as my backbone. And even as a small child, I knew that was my calling, I lucked up, man. That's all there is to it. I do call it luck. Very fortunate for, my grandmother for being able to financially put me through dance. Very fortunate for both of my parents. Shout out to Randy and Nikki. For being just like super open-minded and allowing me to do what I wanted to do and not making me do what I didn't want to do. And I kind of still live by that idea, I do what I want, and I don't do what I don't want to do. And a lot of kids nowadays, especially the ones that I teach, I see that they're being brought up in a household that doesn't allow that,
Well, we'll get into that.
Yeah.
I want to dive
I'm
into
just
that.
so excited to be here.
Yeah, no, I'm excited for you to be here as well. I've been looking forward to this for
Right,
a while.
I know.
So I mean, you never quit.
Right.
I mean, we kind of already got to that
Yeah.
point, but so were you a part of anything in like middle school and high school? Like
Ironically enough, I never did the dance team thing.
never got involved
Look,
during school.
Even at a young age, I just thought it was lame. And I support it now. My students that do it, and I support it. But middle school, I didn't do it. High school, I did WMHS, Rebels. Anyways, I did Rebel Line my freshman year, and that was like, what are we? The whole time I'm just thinking like, are we just kicking? Like, this isn't dance. Then I wanted to do Raiders just to get the experience of the uniform, dancing on West Monroe High School's field.
There's a pride aspect to
There
that.
is. You get it with your kicking skills. You
For
understand it. But yeah, that was my goal, was to get the uniform, do it, and then I was like, all right, I'm ready to start really dancing. I can only kick so much.
I mean, I guess doing what you did for so long and then getting into that, it was a little more structured and it wasn't as creative, really friendly.
That's what it was. Is at the time, whenever it was time to, am I gonna try out the next year or am I not? I came to the conclusion I would rather start teaching at the studio. I would rather get paid for doing something I love than pay for doing something that angers me. So at that point, I decided to transition and start teaching at age 16 at the studio. So at Linda Lavender School of Dance, might I add, if you don't know that about myself, I teach at Linda Lavender School of Dance. Shout out to Linda Ford, Linda Lou Boardland. My second mothers, basically. They've helped raise me. I mean, I've known them since I was 3. So
yeah, so you've always been in that studio.
Yeah.
Never.
And I haven't stepped away. Of course, I mean, I've taught and I've done master classes, and I've traveled to places like Arkansas, Mississippi, Texas, set dances, set choreography, taught classes, but I've never moved to another studio full time. Again, like, it goes back to the luck thing, man. Like, I lucked up. I started full-time teaching at 19, and I was ready. I was like, let's go. This is what I want to do, and I still have that mindset today. So that's when you're doing your dream job. Is
for sure.
It hasn't gotten old once.
That's awesome.
I know.
That's something that I'm very jealous of for you.
Yeah.
But I think that is pretty interesting that you started at 16 teaching. I mean, were you teaching like middle school people, or were you kids, I should say,
right.
people?
Middle school people. Well, for the most part, at 16, I started assisting.
Yeah.
So that consists of, you have a main teacher, somebody older than you, doing what they really know how to do. And at this point, I'm observing, I'm learning. I'm like a sponge. I'm watching, because in the back of my mind, I'm like, I'm coming for your job. Like, I'm telling myself, yeah, this is great. I love assisting, but I wanted to teach. I mean, I remember Miss Lindaloo getting on to me, at 8 years old. Let me teach my class. You learn the steps. I always wanted to step up. I'm like, hey, we could do this. Instead of us dancing to this song, why don't we dance to this? It works the same. It's so funny because I noticed those aspects still in me today. Like, I'll teach a whole dance to children and be like, I'm not feeling this song. Let's change it up. And it just so happens to work with a better song. So it's little things like that I knew as a kid. I'm like, oh, I'm going to have this one day. I'm going to make the rules one day.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. I mean, I don't know. This is going great. I'm just kind of lost in the sauce, honestly.
Go great, man.
But
Get lost in the sauce.
yeah, but something that I've seen just out of your things that you post on social media, and
Right.
you mentioned like being able to just go through something and change it and
Yeah.
things like that. It's very apparent that you are a creative,
Yeah.
and that you're also an encourager, because
Thank you, Tanner.
I've seen you, like what you post on your Snapchat or Instagram or whatever, of you just like you making it fun. Like
Yeah.
I'm sure there's times where you're teaching and it can be boring or whatever. You have to teach the basics
yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah.
But like it seems like you always bring it around, and you always make sure that they're staying in tune.
Yeah,
and
into it.
yeah.
Thanks, man. I think as a kid, that was something that I always, again, I knew what I wanted to do as a small child, and I was taking notes mentally. I'm telling myself, oh, I'll never do this, or oh, I'm gonna do this a lot more, And I got the privilege of starting around 6. I started working with a man named Joe East. I mean, he's just this flamboyant, middle-aged man, and it goes from Miss Linda Ford, classic beauty, to Joe, who's wild, insane, letting us do dances, letting us stretch to things like Let It Burn by Usher, and us like fanning our behinds at age, and like it went over everybody's head, but I knew at the time, I knew what he was, I knew what he stood for, I knew his sexuality, and I understood it, and I was like here for it. I was like, you are my favorite person ever. So I took a lot of what he had to offer on the plate. And at this time, he was living in Monroe, not New York anymore. So he was bringing New York to us. And I took full advantage of that, So even growing up, it was one of those things where I took notes. I marked off what I wanted to do, what I didn't want to do. And I think that makes it fun for not only me, but my students. I try to just give classes the way I would want to take as a student.
Yeah, for sure.
A very ADD child. I try to like always change up the songs. Let's do the floss. Silly stuff like that. That just kids don't get the exposure to unless they're on YouTube, Instagram, which all children are. But there's still a lot of kids out there that don't have the privilege of having a phone, having a tablet. They can't teach themselves dances like this. So
Yeah.
I try to make it fun for every age, every, economic status of a child. So
From my observation, it seems like maybe hip hop is more of
Yeah.
your favorite style.
for sure. Yeah.
Where do you know where that came about, when that started to develop? Because obviously it's not like one of the
Right.
It's
Yeah.
kind of something you develop as you
No.
grow older.
Honestly,
You weren't
yeah.
listening to
So
hip hop whenever you were
Yeah.
8 years old.
Well, luckily, I grew up with a mom who loved hard rock and rap, and then a father who loves R&B and soul. So I always grew up in a household where moving, grooving, doing your thing was what we encouraged. And to be honest, I loved ballet as a child, but I mean, I was this weight, but about 5 feet, at age 10. So ballet wasn't per se my thing that I could grasp, but I never let that determine who I was going to be as a dancer. I always told myself, no matter what, I'm going to try to be the best at whatever style I want to. We actually didn't start teaching hip hop at the studio until I was about 12, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is what I do in my room. This is what I make, videos of on my Canon digital camera, in my room in front of my mirror. This is what I really love. It was just a way to be silly, one, and two, break away from that harsh, strict, structural aspect of ballet. Tap was always my thing as a kid, you know, rhythm, percussion. I've always understood it. I've always heard it. And then you turn the percussion aspect just from your feet to your whole body. What? Yes, I am so down for this. So I grasped onto that. And then I noticed, you know, it's getting super big in the dance world. Mind you, this is before Dance Moms. This is before dance, technically, I guess the word would be went viral. You know, it's an overused word now, but that's for real what it is. I mean, Dance Moms came around and people were like, oh my God, is this what dance is? And it's like, no, not really. But like you see people like Brian Friedman working with Britney Spears in videos, and I looked at that and I was like, yes, absolutely. So it just clicked with me, and my body did it so much better. I understood, and it was my way of basically singing, but with my body, you know, because ballet, I never could actually hit. I never could point my feet, you know, pretty enough. I could never hold my leg high enough. But then when hip hop came, it was like, oh, let's put Amelia front and center. So it clicked with me. I'm like, all right, this is what I want to do. And I want other children to feel like that. So
yeah, for sure. I mean, it's that's something else, you know. It's and you making everything fun. It seems like
right.
yeah, it's very apparent that you care about your students,
Yeah.
and you want you spreading, like, you teaching in the manner that you do in like
Right.
a happy and a joyful way. It kind of breaks the mold from what, like, I think of, you know,
Of like structural studio dance.
yeah.
Have you ever had one of those teachers at school that, you know, like whenever you get to like 4th grade and you have your little plastic box and you start changing rooms and you start, okay, so you start to be exposed to how different people are, how different teachers teach. For me, I always had Leah Watson was shout out Miss Watson.
For
Anyways, I had her as my homeroom. She made things fun. Her room was Coca-Cola themed.
Yep.
And she always accepted offers and gifts of anything Coca-Cola. She was just fun, you know? And then we would change classrooms and we would go to a subject, and it's just like, oh, you know, teachers would change it, and no fault of their own, but it's one of those things where at that young age, like even in 4th grade, I noticed they don't really enjoy what they do. And that made it not fun to learn.
For sure.
And children nowadays, and kid, I mean, we're kids, Dan.
Most definitely.
We're children.
Most
We're
definitely.
young, you know. And I think that's something that's overlooked now is everybody should enjoy learning. Learning should be fun. Whether you're watching something like Genius on National Geographic, shout out to season 1 with Albert Einstein. Dude, I can't get over it. I'm serious. You should watch it. Anyways, or you're in school doing your thing, you know, you're in college. If at any moment you have a doubt that, oh, I already know everything about this, you should move on to something different, you know? Or if your teacher isn't making it fun enough, that's the disadvantage of, you know, not being in college, is you can't really do much about it. You have to power through. But in college, you know, you can select your classes, select your teachers. I always had the goal, you know, bouncing back and forth from colleges. I was like, I never want to be that teacher that people are like, oh God, she's in my schedule, you know. I have her for Spanish 1, you know, everything's going to go downhill. It's always good to be that one person that, oh, hell yeah, you're going to have so much fun with her.
You're the
It's
cool
gonna be
teacher.
good. Yeah, and that's the goal. And I do have to say, you know, age is one advantage that I have. I'm the youngest full-time teacher at the studio, but at the same time, I don't want people to look at me as the youngest full-time. You know, I want people to look at me as a full-time teacher. So I always was told, basically, you know, once you stop learning and once you have nowhere to grow, move on, find something else. But that's why the passion for dance has always been there. It's never ending, man. The learning aspect is infinite. And if you have a passion for anything, I feel like you can have that outlook on it. I can always learn more. I can always be better. I can always teach people this love for something. You know, give hope to people. I feel like it's an easy aspect to grasp for me, but that's what I'm trying to teach to other people.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
And you know, something that I've talked about a little bit on this podcast is depression and
Yeah.
like not in like deep. We hadn't gone deep into it,
Yeah.
but just being able to move your body and
No, yeah.
just get it out.
Totally
I think
get it. I
that
totally get what you're saying. It's
it's a
to
release.
to take absolutely a release. To take something that you're feeling so much and to be able to write it basically in the air. That's kind of how I look at dance. I look at it as I'm singing, I'm writing poetry. Because it's more than just steps, and that's what I'm trying to portray. Is look, whenever I teach you a dance, I don't want you to just be doing steps on the stage with facials. I want you to live. I want you to show the music. Music is step one of dance. If you don't understand it, if you can't appreciate it, you shouldn't be dancing. And that goes for life in general. But yeah, it's definitely and that's really, again, like what my goal is I've been through some tough times. I've been down. Everybody has. Especially at this age, we start to realize what it feels like. You're not just quote unquote in your feels. People say that nowadays. Thank you, Drake. But people say that nowadays, and children don't even know what it means. But it's like, it's almost frowned upon to have emotion, to have feeling about stuff.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that in kids and people our age, man. I mean, again, I know we're kids, but it's one of those things where it's frowned upon to show expression. So it's like, what are we doing, kids? Like, I need you to feel. If you're punching up in the air like this, you can't just whatever. Like, you better make that the hardest punch you've ever done in your life. Like, you should feel more. It's your body moving. Come on, like this is your instrument. Treat it well. Use it to its full ability. It's just like a guitar. You wouldn't just pick ding 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 ding. You wouldn't do that the whole entire time. That's really a banjo. You know what I'm saying? It's about living up to your full potential in general. And I think if you can learn that in anything, you learned it at a young age with sports. You lucked out being a great football player and a great. That's what you were known for, dude. Like you could kick the hell out of a ball, and you were good at it.
Yeah.
And that's the important thing, is you find something, focus on it, get as good as you can at it, and then once you're done with it, move on to something else and be good at it as well.
For sure. I felt just to throw it out into the world. I never got my shot at sports. Always.
I think you did.
Well, no, senior year football, I get to kick extra points, a couple field goals. That was wonderful.
Oh yeah,
it was mainly because we're winning all the time.
Right. No, that was a good year. That was the year I was on Raiders. I was a sophomore watching my friend Dan Mabry kick the winning goals. It's a big deal. It's really cool.
Yeah, especially here. Yeah, I mean, we grew up around it.
Right.
Never going anywhere else.
Right.
Living here, football's king, and
yeah, I mean,
it definitely meant a lot to us at the time.
Yeah, and you have to look at it as, I know it sounds silly, but you were a big deal, man. Like, you were a vital part of this community.
People did chant my name whenever I
honestly
kicked extra points.
But I just remember being friends. I know that you were older than me, but again, always had friends that were older. I was always hanging out with. We've been professional mutual friends our whole life.
Professional mutual friends.
Professional mutuals. It's no matter where I've been. No matter where I'm at in life, and vice versa, I feel like we've always had mutual friends, and it's always been a good. I've never heard anything bad about Dan Mabry. I've never heard that he's slacking on anything, and that's inspiring to know somebody like that.
Oh, you're not talking to the right people then.
Oh my God, whatever.
I've pissed plenty of people off, believe me.
Yeah, I do remember at one point, I don't remember what it was over, but I was just being a turd head, probably like a little sophomore in high school turd head.
Yeah.
And we had a disagreement about something, and I can't remember what it was exactly, but I just remember being like, all right, well, I don't want to make Dan Mabry mad. I respect him.
Yeah, well, I had a bit of an anger issue at that point in life.
It's all good. Haven't we all? If you haven't by this age, I feel bad for you. Like, you should try to get through that before you're 30.
You should get mad sometimes.
You should try to go through an anger
issue. Get that
issue.
Adrenaline pumping someday.
Get it over and done with, man.
For sure.
That's how I feel about most things in life. You should get that through your system. Get it done. Get it over with at a young age. And then you can look back and be like, yeah, at one point I was there, but now I've gotten better. You
yeah,
know, it's
no, then that's definitely the way that I've been looking at things recently. Like I've
yeah,
talked about it on the podcast a couple times. How
Yeah.
like I was thankful for the fraternity, but it may have held me back. But at the same time, like you say, there's so many things that came out of that, and you can't change anything now.
No,
I'm
absolutely.
thankful for it, and you know, it made me who I am. Like
Yeah.
you say, I definitely got some things through my system.
And that's
And like you say, it's a whole lot better to do it at 22, 23 than 30.
because
So.
I know we look at, you know, again, some mutuals and some people that we don't even know, and it's like, oh man, you're going out and you're staying out till 2 a.m. man.
Yeah.
You're 27. Like, let's do a little bit better. You know, get that through your system. Now, I'm not saying, America, I'm not saying that you need to get a fake ID at 15 like I did. I am saying that that you should do what you want to do, and if that happens to be going to Penny Pitcher Wednesdays at Scruff's when you're 16, you should do it. But you won't catch me doing that nowadays because I've done it. I've gotten it over with. And I mean, I was lucky enough to have parents that super open-minded, super you do what you want. I wouldn't call them hippies, but we could call them hippies. But very fortunate to have parents like that they trusted me enough to make good decisions, and I trusted them enough to whenever I made a bad decision, I could come to them and they could give me any advice, any help on, you know?
For sure.
That's really what I see. For the most part, the friends that we have nowadays, we were all, for the most part, raised like that or have figured out a way to be like that with our parents.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
Crap, I was going somewhere.
At this age, man, if you still have to hold stuff, if you still have to lie and, you know, hold stuff back from your parents, you've got to look at yourself. You've got to evaluate yourself, man. Like, it is, life is too short. Life is too short to, one, have boring hair, and two, to lie to people like your family, to lie to your friends. You've got to be able to do things that you wouldn't regret telling people that you've done. And I think that's one of the big reasons why I've lost a few friends here and there as I've gotten older. I say gotten older, but really matured. Is I see them doing things, telling people that they've done something completely different, and it's like, well, one, don't do it. Don't do something that you wouldn't want to tell your significant other about, your parents about, your family about. You know, it's we're grown people. You shouldn't have to sneak around and do things like that. You know.
Well, circling back a little bit, I'll say this about you. Like you being able to hang out with an older crowd, you were always like, you always carried yourself that way.
Right.
And that, I think that plays into also like you knew what you wanted to do and you were confident in it. And
that helped.
Yeah, you know, I think that helped you mature a little bit. And
right.
I call you mature, but you're like also like one of the bigger jackasses I know sometimes.
Oh yeah, you gotta be.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't
just
take
keep
life
it fun.
so serious.
And,
yeah.
I've always admired that about you.
Thank you, Dan.
And I've noticed here recently you've been trying to express yourself a little bit more sometimes.
However that may be. Yeah.
Diving into some new avenues.
I know.
On the gram.
I know. Yeah, Instagram is a blessing and a curse at the same. I just hit myself in the face. No, Instagram is good and bad, man. Like I think it's kind of like life. I've been through the good and the bad of Instagram, and now I'm just like, oh my God, you just can't take it serious. And and you'll be good to go, you know? At one point I was so focused on my followers, the likes that I got. I was doing the whole thing where I had pictures taken from like a really nice camera, and I would post a picture of like a inspirational quote, you know, with the hashtags of, you know, follow me, like for like, you know, all literally things that you see people doing today, and I just cringe and immediately unfollow. But it's one of those things where at that time, you know, I was 20, 21 years ago, but but yeah, I was so focused on it because I was like, oh, I'm slacking in school right now. I need this approval from other people that I am doing good in life, you know? So mentally, whenever I was probably the lowest, socially, I was the highest. Like I was I was gaining followers, doing the likes, doing the hashtags. And it got to the point where I got so taken up by the idea of I have to post every day. And a lot of it has to do with a dance company that I worked for. My boss really pushed social media and really, really told us that, if you're not posting every day, you're not going to get followers. And I had this in my mind. I was stressing myself out. I would stop teaching in the middle of a class just to post. Like,
Whoa.
come on, like it's,
When was this?
I would say like mid 2017, and that doesn't seem that long ago, but
I've grown up a whole lot in the past 2 years.
dude, I know. At this age, if you're not, I'm not really sure what's going on. And this is the moment where we turn the camera back on. You got it. I believe in you, and we're here, and we're back. But yeah, and that's something that I really wanted to talk to you about. Pressures of.
I told you not to act weird.
Oh my God! I told you the camera would cut off if you started acting weird. But yeah, that's something I wanted to touch on with you today. Pressures of social media.
Okay.
Because here we are, two mid 20-year-olds, talking in these, robot.
Very social media present.
Yeah. Robot hot dogs that we're talking into. And then I just told you today, like, I want to promote you. But there's a difference between promoting friends and people that you know on something that they're passionate about. There's a difference between that and looking good. There's I see it, and I haven't started to pay attention until I stepped away from being that person and started to pay attention to students and people that I know that these girls, these students that I have get so stressed about, oh, he hasn't Snapchatted me today, blah, blah, blah. And I just hear it, and I mentally, I tell myself, oh my God, what have you been taught? And then I like snap back to reality. Oh, there's go gravity. Anyways, I tell myself, I'm like, all right, this is your job, man. This is what you. That's so stupid. I don't even like him. I don't even know. But yeah, I come to my senses, and I'm like, this is what you're here for, and I'll be like, girl, he don't mean nothing. Like, you're gonna be dating somebody in another year. Like, you're 14, you know. And it's one of those things.
But you can't say that.
No, you can't. You can't say exactly that. But I try to tell them, like, you're beautiful no matter what. You don't need likes. You don't need all of that. And some of them, I can see it. The gears are turning. They start to click. But for the other ones, I'm like, God, you're a lost cause. But I don't give up on them. I keep them going. But it's the parents that do the same thing, that post on the Facebooks, Can let me just switch gears real fast. It really throws me off when people post pictures of the insides of their bodies. Like x-rays, like
really grinds your gears.
sonograms. Isn't that what no, wait, what's a sonogram? That's a baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Are you
weird.
talking about the x-ray? Are you talking about
Like
babies?
Like pictures of old. I don't want to see your innards, man. I don't know. That just might be where I'm at right now in life. I don't see birth as like a beautiful miracle, but I'm like, oh God, like that is inside your body. Like, is that not weird?
Not pursuing anything in the medical field, are you?
No. I could, but it couldn't do. It'd be the what the brain does on Facebook would be my focus.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of those things where people there's nothing interesting going on in their life. So they have to do things like have children. They have to do things like post their wedding pictures, and they got married in 2015. It's because they're not giving themselves enough credit that they are good people, that they are badass.
Yeah.
Like, nobody's giving themselves enough credit because they're looking at these other people, like Susie just had a child, and they're beautiful. They've got these golden locks, and here my child is with just brown hair. And it's like, oh my God, you made something. Like, this is your kid. Show them off. I get that, but don't compare yourself to these people who already have a bigger following than you. and they're getting the, oh, they're so cute, blah, 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 blah. It just, I really wish, and it's not a child thing, man. It is an every age epidemic. Like, it is in every age, no matter who you are, no matter what you're doing. You're always thinking that somebody's going to be better than you. And given, hey, they are. Like, the reality is that, yeah, there's always going to be somebody better than you, no matter what. You can't focus on that. You cannot focus on that. You have to focus on yourself getting better in general. So I know that's straying away from the idea of pictures of innards, but
But
it
I
just
mean,
throws
it
me
does.
off.
It definitely resonates with a lot of people around here.
You're right, yeah.
And
Small town.
and I think a lot of
Small
people
goals.
are, like you say, they're worried about other people's opinions, and like, I started this
Right.
because like I needed to create, like I needed a
Ooh,
creative
you had
outlet.
that itch.
And
yes,
I
dude.
love the likes and I love the shares and the comments and
right.
everything. Like
because
that is
it's
cool.
because it's your
But,
it's your
like,
damn child. Dude.
I had this itch and
Right.
I had to scratch it, and that
Yeah.
ended up being this podcast.
Yeah.
So
I know, dude. And I mean, it's paying off. Like, you have to realize, if you haven't given up now, and if you are still going in, you're still investing in better equipment, better things, getting people to do your intro songs, getting artists to do a logo for you, dude, that means that you love what you're doing.
for sure,
And this is a side job for you. You know what I'm saying?
indeed.
If you can do all of this and not get paid and still love it, yeah, it's a good gig. You should still do it.
Yeah. Well, and I keep telling myself like it's a process, and I do want to put out 52, so I'm like backlogging these. So I'm only putting out one a week.
52.
And, yeah, one a
Oh,
week.
52.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I'm like backlogging them, so I'm not putting them out like more than once a week.
Right.
And it's like I want to, but at the same
Right.
time, like you said, I do have another job, full-time job, and it takes up a lot of my time, and I just don't have enough time to like edit, and I would be really overwhelmed if I tried to put out more than one a week.
Yeah. I mean, and it's what you're doing right now is working for you. So whenever you say that you had that itch, like whenever I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Was it one of those things where like you've always had this in the back of your mind, or was it one of those things where you're like, damn it, I'm gonna do this today. Like let's start. Let's call up Chicken Boy and get him to be on my show. You know?
I mean, it was kind of a slow process.
Yeah.
I took Treywick's class in high school.
Shout out to Treywick,
Yeah.
yes.
And then I just like suppressed all that. Like I kept buying GoPros and I'd take random pictures and
Yeah,
do
you've
little
always-
videos and
yeah,
stuff like
yeah.
that. But then for like the whole second half of college, like the last 2.5 years that I did,
I've been gripping this too hard. My
and,
hand is numb.
I didn't really create anything. And so then
Did you feel it then? Like, did you tell yourself, like, I'm not really creating? Or were you just kind of distracted by everything else? at the
Yeah,
time?
totally
Yeah.
distracted by
Yeah.
everything else. Like I said, I think I said it in some episode, but I was just focused on hanging out with my bros, like
Yeah.
the next thing to
Yeah,
do.
just ball with my breasts.
Yeah,
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
and I like I said, I had a lot of good friends, still do,
Right.
because of that. But like I said, we were just hanging out, and then we'd go to school, and then we'd go hang out again. And
Yeah.
I wasn't really looking for a creative outlet because I had my mind
It's
was
good to do at that
focused on
age.
another thing. Like you said, I got it out of my system, kind of deal.
Yeah.
And so then I, moved to Denver and got super lonely and dove into the YouTube world.
I forgot that
Yeah.
Dan Mabry moved to Denver.
I did move to Denver.
You're right.
And I dove super heavy into YouTube.
Yeah.
Who
Who was your favorite?
this guy named Austin Augie.
Okay. Shout out Augie.
Yeah.
If you ever listen.
For sure.
Yeah.
He's-
You've done well.
Yeah. Casey Neistat. If you're aware of Casey Neistat.
For sure. That's a nice stat. Sounds like a medicine. Just
Goodness knows.
just one drop and you'll fall asleep fast.
And then later
what-
on getting into Joe Rogan and all that.
All
kind of
right.
stuff.
What was the overall theme of those dudes? Like, what did you like about what they were doing? What
Uh,
caught your eye, basically?
I mean, Casey lives a really simple life. Like
Yeah.
he doesn't do anything super crazy. He gets to travel and stuff,
right.
but it's just the way that he shoots it and the way that he can put it all together makes it really interesting.
Isn't it amazing how something like that, someone so simple, someone so like us, can use their creativity, put their mind into something, and then share it, and genuine people like you grasp onto it because it's like, oh my God, I can see myself doing that. I think that's what YouTube, that's what this all should be about, is you are just like us. Anybody listening to this is just like us sitting right here, you know? And that's how social media in general, that's how things should be looked at, is we're all human, man. Like, we're all the same. That's how you should look at it. I can do this, you know? I might not be as good as Dan Mabry, but if I want to try it, I'm going to try it. It's just I like to see people like you grasp on to people like Casey. What's his last name?
Neistat.
Shout out Neistat. People like Casey Neistat, so simple, to the point, loves what he does. And then you have people like that dude that got
Jake
Logan
Paul.
Yeah.
Logan
The Paul,
Paul.
that Paul person, Logan Paul. You have people like that are just living this insane life that I will never live. Nobody ever will live that, you know?
Well,
And
it's not even so much their life. It's really the way that they portray it and the way that they're on camera.
Thank you for saying that.
and
Yeah.
I had a guy hit me up, and he wanted to help me, and I really hope that maybe we can work together. But I gave him a heads up. I was like, look, and I told you this earlier today, like, I'm just trying to grow this organically. Like, I don't want to be clickbaity. Like, you will never see a gigantic title. Like, if you've looked at the ones previously and this one, like, it's just a number of the podcast and the person's name. Like,
Right.
And
that
short description about who they are. Like,
organic.
yeah, like, I want you to share it, and I want somebody else to see it and be like, that's cool.
Right.
So you should listen to this. I just want you to share it with a friend, and
Yeah.
and
that's
maybe somebody will gain something out of it.
That's my goal. Is I like how the golden rule, do unto others as you would want
unto yourself,
done unto you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, you got to think of that in like a social media aspect nowadays. That's how you have to look at it. Well, you should do it in real life, but still, it's one of those things where if I promote my choreography, my art, what I do, what I love, and my friends that also do that share it, I'm just genuinely thankful. And I have in the back of my mind, oh my God, I would support you in whatever you want to do, you know? So here we are talking about, you know, the pressures of social media and, you know, basically talking ish about people trying too hard. But when it comes to people like you trying to do organic things and trying to really just make other people's lives happier, that's what should be shared. If you want to, you know, that's what should be promoted. That's what people should be listening to, rather than these insane ideas of, you know, I'm going to the mall. We're going to drop $50K in Dick's Sporting Goods, also known as Richard's Sporting Goods. But you know, it's one of those things of like, why am I watching this? You know, and then there's real conversations, real people, real friends that are doing things that people are just missing out of because you don't have like a girl in a bikini as your thumbnail.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
But I feel like that's what, and that's I feel like my goal with this and your podcast, and I want to help you out, is the same thing. I mean, I want my followers on Instagram, I want my people to know what this is about. Zach Hales himself reached out to you today saying that he wanted to come on here.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things, every person that I talked to today, I worked at Flying Tiger this afternoon, and I was telling people, I was excited to come on here. Yeah. So I was telling people about, my good friend Dan Mabry, he's doing a podcast. I showed everybody your channel, I guess would be the word, on iTunes podcast and on YouTube. And it's one of those things where they're like, oh, I can't wait to hear your interview, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I'm not trying to, you know, make this about me, but if they're mutuals with me, and if my interview gets them interested in this, then let's move on to the next one. Let me promote the next one.
Ideally, somebody sees somebody's name that they know and they recognize, and then they subscribe, and then the next time, maybe they don't know the next person, but maybe they know the third person after that, you know, exactly. and stuff like that. That's like our friend, my roommate Nick Wilday, he approached me today and was like, hey man, there's this guy that I work with that's an old rock star kind of guy, and he wants to come on, and I was like, let's set it up, you know. So
I've been wondering when the Nick Wilday interview was coming also.
I don't think that's going to happen.
Oh, but the dude's voice is so great.
Oh, he's got a radio voice. He's got the voice. Sure.
You guys just wait, America. Wilday's gonna be on here. I think he needs to do what's Joe Rogan's friend that looks up
Jamie.
Jamie. Will Day, if you could pull up,
Yeah.
if you could pull up, yeah.
Will they could totally be my producer.
Right, executive, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think it's important, like you said, to organically find people and make people interested in genuine conversation. And that's a lost art in itself,
For
if
sure.
you've noticed.
Definitely something I'm learning.
Oh, yeah.
You're really good at it.
Thank you, Dan.
You've done an excellent job of filling the space.
Thank you, man.
I want to jump back to something.
Let's jump.
I want to go back to dance.
Crisscross to make you.
I want to go back to dance. I know you mentioned at the beginning that you've given private lessons and gone to other studios and stuff. But I've seen you at this thing, the Streets.
Right, the Streets.
And what is that, and how's your involvement, and how did you get involved with that?
So the Streets is a dance convention and competition. So to those of you that don't know dance lingo, convention and competition means you go for a weekend at a random city, random hotel. You take classes all day Saturday, all day Sunday. When I say all day, I mean you warm up at 7 a.m., you take classes till about 3, then you compete against other studios, other ages, other levels, and the goal is to win. It's
kind of a free-for-all competition.
Exactly, yeah. And I mean, it is grouped in ages, it's grouped in categories. So obviously you have a ballet category, won't compete with a tap category, but the main point is classes. And that was my draw in the beginning was, oh my God, I get to assist these very well-known, very paid teachers on stage, get to know them as real people, as friends. And that was my draw to it all, was like, around this area, you can't really pursue a dance career after college or really in college. It's kind of like once you graduate high school, oh, all right, it's time to start teaching. It's time to start.
I was on Rebel Line.
Yeah, remember that time? R.I.P. Don Shouse. But
I remember.
I remember. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's a lost art because it's got an age limit on it. But with convention, that kind of disappears. It's one of those things where you can everybody's there to just dance, man.
And it's more of
aren't we all doing it for that?
It's more of a hip-hop focused thing, isn't it?
It is. Well, for the most part.
Okay.
It was founded, the owner, Ty Riley, who was my mentor for years. I mean, love the dude. He's helped me with so much. He started off, I mean, this dude jumped into dance real late, but he was really good. I mean, really good. And he wanted to offer dance classes, a space to dance to people from small towns like him. He's from Beaumont, Texas. He wanted to offer classes and things that small towns don't get a lot of times. And he's branched off. This is the 11th year of it. I mean, they're going on a 14-city tour this year. I haven't been to a lot of them this year because I took on a lot of responsibility back home here. And it's one of those things where I have to focus on making myself better as a teacher rather than making myself better as an assistant right now. But, yeah, so Travel with the Streets, I've been working with them for about 5 years now. I'm kind of dialing down for the most part with them, but it's because I'm career-wise, I'm focusing on what my next move is. And they've offered me so much. They've offered me, these places that I've said that I've gone and taught at. It's because I've met these people, these studio owners at these conventions. And I try to assist it just like I would at a regular class. I make little friends, like little puddings. I flock to the smaller children because I know that they feel out of place like I did at that age. And I try to make myself seem like a friend more so than a Instagram star that's dancing in a room with them, and that seemed to be the right gig for me. It works pretty well. But yeah, I'm kind of dwindling down on the aspect of competition route of dance, and I'm really starting to focus more on company and choreography and making it more art than show off for the most part. Not that competitions are show offy, but unless you're promoting yourself on social media and unless you're dancing on stage by yourself doing solos like that, it's not the greatest gig for you. Yeah. So I've hit that age where I really I want people to know, like, yeah, I'm still having fun. I'm still dancing. I'm, professional. Professional for the most part. in my opinion, you're not professional unless you're getting paid. That's how you should look at it. No person should call themselves professional unless you're getting paid to do what you love. And in that case, I am professional. But for the most part, I try to not look at myself like that. Because as soon as you look at yourself, oh yeah, I'm a professional dancer, I'm getting paid, it seems like the money starts getting less and less. You know,
Yeah.
you get a bigger head. People notice that. That's not just in dance, man. That is in life in general.
Most
I
definitely.
know you know people, and I know people that, you know, they get these great jobs and they start bragging and bragging and bragging about what they're doing, and you give them less credit for it. You don't respect them anymore.
Well, I think, and it's an attitude that me and you both have is
Yeah.
that we're still a kid.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we have more responsibility and bills and stuff, but like we are still kids, and like we have our whole lives ahead of us.
Yeah,
and
you're so right.
and I think that, you know, luckily we have maybe have found our creative outlets,
That's
and so
very true.
that's able to help keep us happy and,
Right.
and you know, keep us positive and looking forward to the next day and that kind of stuff.
I think, and this is something at a young age I learned, but I still keep it in my mind. And this is some, you know, I hope other people can listen to this and take it home with them. Once you stop getting nervous, once you stop getting those butterflies about things, you should move on to something different. I definitely still to this day, if I'm about to get on stage and perform, I get that excitement where like, whoo, you know, and that's what you should have. I get that excitement whenever I'm teaching at a new studio where I don't know kids. I get that excitement doing things like a podcast. Like it's one of those things where I want to make it good and I want to be comfortable with it. And until you're in the middle of doing it, like we're doing right now, canter back and forth, until you're actually doing it, you're thinking about how good you want it to be. And if you don't have that mindset, if you don't really care, you know, don't overthink it. But no, like let me overthink it.
Yeah.
Let me make it good because I want to enjoy it.
Two things on that. So one, this past weekend, I was filming a wedding, and I knew the bride, but I didn't know.
Shout out to Bo Benson.
Yeah,
We
shout out to
love
Bo
you.
Benson
We love you.
and Anna Benson.
Yeah.
Now
Anna Benson.
That's right. So I knew Anna, but I didn't know her bridesmaids.
Right.
And I was going to film it by myself. And before I walked in, like, shaking nervous. Like,
Right.
But as soon as I walked in and talked to somebody,
Right.
like, everything was cool.
Isn't that wonderful though?
Yeah, for sure. But I bring it up because I also heard something similar on another podcast that I listened to today, and it was these guys talking about, you know, just like doing stuff
Right.
and like putting yourself out there, and
Very important.
and you know, you like you say you do this, and like you were a little bit nervous before
Right.
maybe, but like the next time somebody asks you to be on a podcast, if that ever happens, you're like, for
Right.
sure, I got
we
that.
got this,
Like,
we got
yeah,
this.
I've done that before.
I believe in myself enough that I'm going to be good at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like
And-
for me doing this, like, one, I keep like making little mistakes, which is wonderful. That's the way I
It's
learn.
part of getting better.
But
man.
like it's always been somebody different, so
Right.
it still keeps that little edge to it.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, absolutely.
And I'm a little more comfortable with you just because we've known each other
Yeah.
for so long.
We
But
go way back.
it's definitely, I never know where the conversation's going to go. So
Yeah, I give you props with Ethan.
yeah.
I know that Ethan Grimion and you weren't like super buds before, but it flowed real well. Like
Yeah.
y'all did very well.
Well, I was talking to Paxton before that interview, and he was like, yeah, he's got a crazy wake skating story
Yeah.
about him breaking his leg.
I was at the
and I
lake
was-
that weekend.
Oh, really?
Pretty wild.
And I was like, dude, I love wake skating. I love mountain biking.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to have something to talk
Yeah.
about. So,
You find like a mutual topic, and it's amazing how two human beings can go into a topic that you're even like the slightest interest. You know something that I don't. I know something that you don't. Let's put it together, and you just keep going.
well,
about
that's the whole
things.
point of this podcast is to
Right.
learn something new every time, and
Absolutely.
hopefully you know, somebody can take something away from it.
I
If-
agree
if-
with it.
If nobody else does, I will. So
Right. And that's the point. You know, it goes back to that. One of my favorite things that my dad has always said is, as I've grown up, you know, as long as you're making yourself laugh, it's funny. I mean, and it's beautiful. You know, that's something that you should live by. As long as you're happy, other people will be. You know, and that's pretty tough at this age. And I know that you've said, you know, you've touched on depression here and there. everybody's touched on depression here and there.
Yeah.
People at our age, it gets in that like sketchy area of, I don't want to talk about it too much because I don't want people to start thinking that I'm sad. But realistically, people that are close to you will notice that without even you saying anything about it. It's not even a verbal thing that you have to say, but it's important for people like us to promote talking about it,
Most definitely.
to promote the idea of, I've been there too, get through it, because everybody's just looking for a solution, man. Everybody wakes up and we're like, let's get through this day. Come on, whether it's going to be a good one or bad one, everybody's motive is to get through the day. And whether it's hearing somebody else say, hey, I've been through that too, you can do it, or hearing somebody say like, hey, it helps me to move, it helps me to create, that's my outlet, then they'll try it and that fixes them. It's all about everybody. I mean, everybody just has to work together, man. That's what we have to do as humans in general. I know that sounds real like, listen, man, everybody's got to work together. But hey, no shit, that's what we should be doing.
Most definitely.
Yeah, that's how life should be in general.
I agree.
That's what you got to do. But yeah, live by that. Once you stop getting butterflies about something, it's time to move on.
For sure. I like that.
I know. It's definitely something that I've lived by. Another one. That's my favorite. You cannot borrow your way out of debt. That has nothing to do with anything that we're doing.
Those are facts, though.
Those are just facts, America. You have to live by that too. Yeah, you can't borrow your way out of debt. I guess that could be talking about emotions as well. If you're not doing that well, you can't just fake it.
Yeah.
I know plenty of friends with I know this is a quick switch, but I have friends that have gone off the deep end with things like drugs, things that anything to blur out what they're feeling. And realistically, when you think about it, that's putting yourself in debt. That's putting yourself, holding it back, putting it down, stuffing it down. I'm going to be okay. And then one day that letter comes in the mail, figuratively, that letter comes in. Mentally, it's whenever you have a break and you're like, oh my God, I've been doing this for too long. I've watched many of friends go through that, and it's something that I don't wish upon anybody, but some people have to do that in order to realize like, oh my God, if I would just express myself and express the feelings that I have right now, I wouldn't have to keep pressing them down and go into debt. You can't borrow somebody's happiness. That doesn't work. Happiness can't be loaned. Okay.
All right.
That's yeah. It's a good way to look at it.
That is a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I think we should wrap this up.
I think we should too. I mean, I honestly could keep going, but I feel like for the people, for America, it's gonna be okay if we wrap it up.
Yeah. Me and Nathan, briefly discussed it. Maybe a group.
And who is this Nathan boy?
I don't know. Some bearded, tattooed man running around.
He sounds real cute. I might have to meet. You mind introducing him to me?
Anytime.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll probably do a group podcast at some point.
Nothing wrong with a little group pod. I don't. The new Jewel pod coming out. It's the group pod.
Group pod.
Yeah. It's like 3 tiers coming out of the top of a jewel. I don't jewel. I don't know how things work. I got weak lungs, man. I'm not.
Nicotine's bad.
Nicotine's bad. Don't do drugs.
Yeah.
Don't.
Jewel's bad.
Jewel's bad. Julie.
Julie.
Two twins. Briley and Julie. Juul. How do you spell Jewel? Juuley.
Yep.
Julie.
No, just the E. No,
just one E. Yeah.
Julie.
With the little
Yep.
on top of it.
Well, do you have any shout outs or questions for me?
Yeah. So I'm really trying to become an influencer on Instagram. So if you guys could like and follow everything that I do, I'd really appreciate it.
Yeah. Where are you at on the social medias?
I'm really touching into fashion blogging right now. So no, but seriously, I mean, I'm trying to change up my social media platform for more like motivational, inspirational, don't take life so serious things. My Instagram is Amelianaire. But it's always been that. But yeah, it's one of those things where I really don't promote myself and like, follow me. I will never follow you back. But it's it's one of those things where, I'm trying to share positivity, and I try to touch on a lot of things that people are so serious about, and it's like, man, calm down. I really have nothing to promote other than in October I do this thing called Dogue, and it's really special to me. It's a fashion show / dance show, and all the benefits go to the animal shelter of West Monroe. I partner with Parlor House. My good friend Katie Anslone owns Parlor House, and we do that third weekend of October. This year will be our third year to do it. But it's one of those things where I try to get my friends to come out to it because our ticket proceeds go to the animals, and I get to do what I love on stage, and I get to choreograph these, boutiques that donate and things like that. That's literally the only thing that I ever have to promote because it means a lot to me.
Cool.
So, and also the Dan Mabry podcast.
Oh, thank you.
That
Well,
means a lot to me as well.
I'd love to get involved with Doug if there was an opportunity.
Oh yeah.
For that.
Also, do you do droid videos?
Drone.
Drone. Yeah. That's totally what I meant. But
yeah, I
okay.
can do some drone videos.
My aunt the other day said,
we can talk about that off camera.
Yeah, we love you, America.
Follow her at Amelia. Look out for Doug in October.
Yeah, for sure.
And we'll see you again, Amelia.
I'll see you soon, Dan Mabry.
Yeah,
you're
thanks
the
for
best.
coming on.
Always appreciate it.
You're a wonderful person.
I'm so glad you're at my home right now.
Peace.
Bye, America.